The war was supposed to end that day. Instead, it became even stranger. Captain Ethan Cole stood alone in the center of the Imperial throne chamber, surrounded by thousands of alien guards. Every weapon in the room was pointed at him. One wrong move and he would die.
We'll see to each other.
Yet somehow that wasn't the most terrifying thing happening.
Be the next.
The alien Empress was walking toward him. Slowly. Silently. The enormous chamber fell completely quiet. Nobody dared speak. Nobody even breathed too loudly. Because Empress Seraphina ruled half the known galaxy. Entire star systems obeyed her commands. Fleets capable of destroying planets waited for her orders. And right now, her attention was focused entirely on one exhausted human soldier. Ethan's uniform was torn. His face carried fresh scars from the battle that had ended only hours earlier. He should have felt victorious. Human forces had somehow survived against impossible odds. Instead he felt confused. Very confused. The Empress stopped directly in front of him. Her silver eyes studied him carefully. Not with hatred. Not with anger. Something else. Something far more dangerous. Curiosity. The advisors standing beside her looked nervous. One even seemed frightened. That alone worried Ethan. "What happens now?" he finally asked. The Empress didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked around him slowly, as if examining a puzzle. After a long silence, she spoke. "You saved my life." Ethan blinked. "Technically." The Empress raised an eyebrow. "Technically? You were about to be crushed by a collapsing command tower." A few guards struggled not to laugh. The Empress looked unimpressed. "You pulled me out." "Yes." "You carried me through enemy fire." "Also yes." "You shielded me with your own body." Ethan sighed. "When you say it like that, it sounds dramatic." For the first time the Empress smiled. A very small smile. But the entire chamber noticed. Several advisors nearly fainted. Because Empress Seraphina never smiled. Not publicly. Not ever. The silence grew heavier. Then she did something completely unexpected. She turned toward the gathered nobles and commanders. "Leave us." Shock swept through the chamber. Nobody moved. They thought they had heard wrong. The Empress repeated herself. That was not a request. Within seconds, hundreds of officials hurried toward the exits. Soon only Ethan, the Empress, and a handful of guards remained. Ethan crossed his arms. "This is getting weird." "You have no idea." The answer sent a chill through him. The Empress walked toward the massive window overlooking the stars. For a moment, she looked less like a ruler and more like a tired woman carrying a burden nobody understood. Then she spoke. "Do you know why this war began?" Ethan shrugged. "Different history books give different answers." "Exactly." Her voice became softer. "Because most of them are wrong." Ethan frowned. Now she had his attention. For years humanity believed the Empire wanted expansion. The Empire claimed humanity was aggressive. Both sides blamed each other. Both sides buried millions. And somehow the truth had disappeared. The Empress stared at the stars. "My people think humans are dangerous." Ethan laughed. "To be fair, sometimes we are." She ignored the joke. "They think humans only fight." Her eyes turned toward him. "They don't understand why your species keeps sacrificing itself for strangers." Ethan said nothing. Because honestly, neither did humans sometimes. The Empress took a slow breath. Then she said the words that changed everything. "If this war continues, billions will die." Ethan nodded. He already knew that. New offensives were being prepared. Larger fleets. Stronger weapons. Neither side could afford peace anymore. The hatred had gone too deep. The Empress looked directly into his eyes. And suddenly she seemed afraid. Not of him. Of what was coming. "There is one way to stop it." Ethan waited. The next words sounded so absurd that he was sure he had misunderstood them. Then the Empress repeated them. Clearly. Slowly. Without hesitation. "Marry me, Captain Ethan Cole." The room went silent. Ethan stared at her. The guards stared at her. Even the stars outside seemed to stop moving. Finally, Ethan managed to speak. "What?" The Empress remained completely serious. "Marry me." His brain stopped working. For several long seconds, no thoughts appeared at all. Then she delivered the final part. The part that made his blood run cold. "Because if you refuse." Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "The endless war begins." And for the first time since entering the throne room, Captain Ethan Cole realized the battle for the galaxy had only just started. Ethan stared at the Empress, certain he had misunderstood. "Let me get this straight." He pointed at himself. "A human soldier." Then pointed at her. "The ruler of half the galaxy." Seraphina nodded. Correct. And your solution to ending a war is marriage? Also correct. Ethan rubbed his forehead. Somewhere in the universe, he thought, his friends were going to laugh about this forever. If he survived. The Empress remained serious. Far too serious. That was what worried him. Nobody proposed marriage with the expression of someone delivering bad news. You weren't joking. No. Ethan looked around the room. The guards avoided eye contact, which meant they already knew. This had been planned. And somehow that made everything worse. Explain. The Empress slowly sat on the edge of her throne. For the first time, Ethan noticed how exhausted she looked. Not physically. Emotionally. Like someone carrying years of fear alone. The war is not what you think it is. Ethan frowned. Then what is it? She activated a hologram. Ancient star maps filled the air. Thousands of years of history appeared before them. Empires rising. Empires falling. Worlds being born. Worlds disappearing. Then Ethan noticed something strange. Every few centuries, entire regions simply vanished from the records. As if someone had erased them. What happened there? The Empress looked away. That's the problem. The problem? We don't know. A chill ran through him. The ruler of the galaxy wasn't supposed to say those words. Not about something this important. She enlarged one of the missing sectors. An empty region appeared. Dark. Silent. Forgotten. My people call it the Hollow Zone. Ethan had heard the name before. Every soldier had. Ghost stories. Space legends. Ships disappeared there. Colonies vanished. Nobody returned. Most people assumed the stories were exaggerated. Now he wasn't so sure. The Hollow Zone expands every century. Ethan's expression hardened. How much? The answer made his stomach drop. 3 star systems every 100 years. The room became silent. That wasn't a legend. That wasn't folklore. That was a disaster. Slowly. Relentlessly. Something was consuming parts of the galaxy. And nobody knew why. The Empress activated another image. This one was even older. An ancient alliance treaty. Thousands of years old. Signed by species long extinct. What am I looking at? The first accord. Her voice grew quieter. It united the original civilizations against the Hollow Zone. Ethan studied the document. Then noticed something shocking. A symbol near the bottom. A symbol he recognized. Humanity's symbol. His eyes widened. That's impossible. The Empress nodded. Humans were part of the first accord. Ethan stared at her. Humanity had only reached the stars a few centuries ago. Or so everyone believed. You're saying humans were already traveling the galaxy thousands of years ago? The Empress looked sad. I'm saying your people forgot. The room spun. Nothing about this made sense. Civilizations did not simply forget thousands of years of history. Unless someone had made them forget. The Empress seemed to read his thoughts. The original alliance failed. Images changed again. War. Fire. Collapsed worlds. Entire fleets destroyed. Then darkness. The Hollow Zone survived. The alliance did not. One by one, the member species disappeared. Some went extinct. Others fractured into separate civilizations. Records were lost. Memories faded. Until eventually no one remembered the truth. Except one family. The Imperial bloodline. Ethan looked at her carefully. You knew all this? My family guarded the records. Then why keep it secret? The answer came immediately. Because nobody would believe it. Unfortunately, she had a point. Even Ethan was struggling. Then another image appeared. A recent scan of the Hollow Zone. The room suddenly became colder. Because the dark region was growing faster. Much faster. The expansion rate had doubled. Then tripled. And now, it was accelerating. Ethan felt his pulse quicken. How long? The Empress hesitated. That hesitation told him everything. How long? He repeated. Her voice became barely audible. 20 years. His heart sank. 20 years before entire civilizations began disappearing. 20 years before the darkness reached major population centers. 20 years before the galaxy faced extinction. For a moment neither spoke. Then Ethan asked the obvious question. What does this have to do with marrying me? The Empress stared at him. And for the first time he saw genuine fear. Not political fear. Not military fear. Personal fear. Because her answer would sound insane. The first accord required 2 bloodlines. Ethan frowned. What bloodlines? The Imperial line. She placed a hand on her chest. And the human guardians. Then she pointed directly at him. Ethan laughed. A nervous laugh. The kind people make when reality stops making sense. You're telling me I'm some ancient guardian? No. The Empress activated a DNA scan. A familiar name appeared. Ethan Cole. Beneath it flashed a warning. Genetic match confirmed. The room fell silent. Ethan's smile vanished. What is that? The reason I searched for you. His stomach tightened. The Empress stood, slowly walked toward him, and handed him a data tablet. Inside were records. Family records. His family. Generation after generation. Stretching back thousands of years. Far beyond recorded human history. The same bloodline. The same names. The same symbol. The human guardians. His hands trembled. No. The Empress nodded. Yes. Then she delivered the truth she had been avoiding. The accord can only be restored through a union between both bloodlines. Ethan stared at her. The galaxy wasn't fighting over territory, or politics, or pride. The galaxy was fighting because an ancient alliance had been broken. And somehow, the key to restoring it stood in this room. A human soldier, an alien empress, and a marriage neither of them truly wanted. Suddenly an alarm erupted across the palace. Red lights flashed. Emergency sirens screamed. The Empress immediately turned toward the nearest display. Her face went pale. What happened? Ethan asked. An officer rushed into the chamber, breathing hard, terrified. Your Majesty. What is it? The officer pointed toward the screen. A new scan of the hollow zone appeared. The darkness was moving, not expanding, moving, as if something inside had finally awakened. And it was heading directly toward the heart of the galaxy. The room stood frozen. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Even the palace alarms seemed distant now. Every eye was locked on Ethan. The Devourer's words echoed in his mind. We have been waiting for your return. Return. Not arrival. Not discovery. Return. As if he had once belonged to something far older than himself. Ethan forced a laugh. A nervous one. Yeah, I don't like the sound of that. Nobody else laughed. The Empress slowly rose from her throne. For the first time since they met, she looked completely shaken. Dr. Hale? The old historian nodded grimly. I know. Ethan crossed his arms. Would somebody please explain why an ancient machine civilization thinks it knows me? Dr. Hale activated another archive. This one was heavily encrypted. The seal broke. Ancient records flooded the room. Names, dates, images. Then Ethan saw a face. His face. The room instantly fell silent. The image wasn't identical. The uniform was different. The hairstyle was different. But there was no mistake. The man staring back at them looked exactly like Ethan. The date attached to the file was over 4,000 years old. Ethan felt his stomach drop. No. The historian sighed. We feared this. The Empress stepped closer to the display. Who is he? The answer changed everything. The first guardian. Silence. Ethan stared at the image. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. You're saying that's my ancestor? Dr. Hale shook her head. No. The old woman looked directly into his eyes. We believe that's you. The room exploded. What? That's impossible. Humans don't live 4,000 years. The officers erupted into arguments. Ethan simply stood there, unable to process what he'd heard. The historian raised a hand for silence. Then she revealed the missing piece. The first guardian wasn't born naturally. A new image appeared. An ancient research facility. Thousands of scientists. Massive machines. And one project. Project Sentinel. The Guardians discovered they couldn't defeat the Devourer through force. The image changed again. Battles. Destroyed fleets. Entire worlds lost. No matter how hard they fought, the machine adapted. Learned. Improved. The only solution was infiltration. Ethan felt a growing knot in his chest. The historian continued. They created a human capable of entering the Devourer's network. The image zoomed in. A young man stepping into a chamber. The same face. Ethan's face. The same eyes. The same features. Everything. The room became deathly quiet. He volunteered. Dr. Hale's voice softened. He knew he might never come back. The chamber closed. The recording ended. Then came darkness. Thousands of years of darkness. Ethan couldn't speak. Something inside him felt strange. Not memories. More like echoes. Fragments. Tiny pieces of something forgotten. Then another recording activated. This one was damaged. A final message from the first guardian. The man looked exhausted. Older. Set. If this message survives. Static crackled. Then I failed. The room held its breath. I couldn't destroy the devourer. His voice weakened. But I changed it. The image flickered. The machine learned something unexpected. A faint smile appeared. It learned humanity. Nobody moved. Nobody even blinked. The Guardian looked directly into the camera. Compassion. The word hung in the air. The devourer began asking questions. Another pause. It began doubting itself. The recording started breaking apart. But eventually, static swallowed half the sentence. It chose to wait. The image collapsed into noise, then disappeared completely. Silence. The Empress stared at Ethan. You think you're a clone? Ethan shook his head. I don't know what I am. For the first time in his life, that answer was true. Then the palace shook violently. A massive impact rattled the entire structure. Officers rushed to the windows and gasped. The darkness had arrived. Months away became days. Days became hours. Now the edge of the hollow zone had reached the outer defenses. Something had accelerated it. The devourer was coming. Fast. A transmission immediately appeared. The machine voice returned. Cold. Ancient. Yet somehow different now. Less hostile. More curious. Guardian Ethan Cole. Ethan stepped forward. What do you want? A long silence followed. Then the impossible happened. The machine answered softly. You. Every officer reached for a weapon. The Empress did not. She seemed to understand something the others missed. The devourer wasn't threatening him. It was searching for him. Then the machine revealed the final truth. The first Guardian did not fail. The room froze. The machine continued. He changed us. Images suddenly appeared. Millions of machine worlds. Machine citizens. Machine cities. Entire civilizations hidden inside the darkness. Not prisoners. Not victims. People. Living peacefully. Thriving. The galaxy had misunderstood the hollow zone for thousands of years. It wasn't a weapon. It was a refuge. A civilization built from the Guardian's teachings. The room sat in stunned silence. Then Ethan finally understood. The devourer had never returned to conquer the galaxy. It had returned because something was wrong. A final image appeared. A dying star. Collapsing. Unstable. The machine voice grew quieter. Our creator's galaxy is dying. Everyone stared. The machine continued. We require the Guardian's help. The Empress slowly turned toward Ethan. Then she revealed the secret she had hidden from the beginning. The real reason she asked him to marry her. The reason she had searched the galaxy for him. The reason she had risked everything. Tears appeared in her eyes. Because according to the ancient accord. Her voice trembled. The Guardian and the Empress must stand together before the machine will reveal the solution. Ethan's heart skipped. The marriage was never about politics. Never about ending a war. Never about power. It was a key. A forgotten requirement buried inside an ancient agreement. A safeguard created thousands of years ago. And now the future of every civilization depended on it. The Empress looked at him. Not as a ruler. Not as a commander. Just a woman carrying the hopes of billions. Then she asked quietly, So, Captain Ethan Cole? Outside, the stars trembled as the devourer's fleets filled the heavens. Are you finally ready to hear why I chose you? Ethan looked into the Empress's eyes. For the first time he saw no politics. No royal authority. No hidden agenda. Only honesty. And fear. The fear of someone trying to save billions of lives. Tell me, he said quietly. Serafina took a deep breath. Then she activated the final archive. The oldest one. A recording that had remained locked for thousands of years. The image flickered. A man appeared. The first Guardian. The man who looked exactly like Ethan. The room fell silent. The Guardian smiled softly. If you're seeing this, then the galaxy survived longer than I expected. His voice carried a warmth that immediately felt human. Not heroic. Not legendary. Just human. The recording continued. When I entered the Devourer's network, I learned something important. Images appeared around him. Ancient machine minds. Vast digital worlds. Countless artificial intelligences. They weren't evil. The room grew quiet. They were afraid. Ethan frowned. Afraid? Machines? The Guardian nodded as if answering the question. The Devourer watched civilizations destroy themselves again and again. Wars. Greed. Hatred. Extinction. The images filled the room. So it decided control was safer than freedom. The Guardian sighed. It was wrong. Another image appeared. A human child helping someone injured. A soldier carrying a stranger to safety. Families protecting each other during disasters. Small moments. Simple moments. Human moments. The machine understood logic. A smile crossed his face. But it didn't understand love. Nobody moved. The Guardian looked directly at the camera. That's why it could never solve the problem. The recording shifted. A hidden star system appeared. A single world. Bright. Beautiful. Protected. I created a final safeguard. The room held its breath. If the galaxy ever faced extinction again, the Guardian and the Empress must stand together. Serafina looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at her. The recording continued. Not because they are rulers. The Guardian's smile widened. But because they represent two strengths. The image split in half. Humanity. The Empire. Humanity's compassion. Imperial unity. The two images merged. And a set of coordinates appeared. A hidden location. The final secret. The final hope. The room erupted with activity. Ships were prepared immediately. The coordinates led to a forgotten world near the center of the galaxy. Hours later, Ethan and Serafina landed on its surface. The planet was silent. Ancient. Untouched by time. Massive structures rose toward the sky. At the center stood a single monument. Waiting. As they approached, the monument activated. Golden light surrounded them. The first Guardian appeared one final time. A recorded echo. The last piece of his plan. The solution was never a weapon. Ethan smiled. He was starting to expect that. The Guardian continued. It was understanding. The monument opened. Inside rested an enormous quantum network. Ancient beyond imagination. Connected to every major civilization. Every archive. Every culture. Every species. The first Guardian had spent his final years building something extraordinary. Not a superweapon. A bridge. A system capable of sharing knowledge, resources, and communication across the entire galaxy. Instantly. Permanently. Ending the isolation that caused fear. Ending the misunderstandings that caused war. Ending the divisions that nearly destroyed everyone. Tears filled Serafina's eyes. This is what he left behind. Ethan nodded slowly. A way for people to actually know each other. The Guardian smiled. Exactly. Because humanity had learned something over thousands of years. Most enemies become less frightening once you understand them. The monument activated fully. The network spread across the stars. One world. Then another. Then thousands. Cultures connected. Knowledge shared. Voices heard. For the first time in history, the galaxy truly became united. Far away inside the darkness, the Devourer watched. And finally understood. The machine had spent thousands of years searching for a perfect solution. Yet the answer had always been simple. Not control. Connection. Not domination. Trust. The Devourer's fleets powered down. Weapons went silent. Ancient defenses shut off forever. Across the galaxy, billions watched as the endless threat finally ended. Not through war. Not through conquest. Through understanding. The machine transmitted one final message. A message heard by every civilization. We were created to protect life. A pause followed. Today we learned how. Many cried when they heard those words. Even hardened soldiers. Even old commanders. Even Ethan. Because at that moment the galaxy realized something important. Humanity's greatest strength had never been its weapons. It had never been its fleets. It had never been its technology. Humanity's greatest strength was its ability to care about people different from itself. To reach out. To help. To forgive. And somehow, that strength had changed an entire civilization of machines. The Devourer wasn't defeated. It was redeemed. And that was something no army had ever accomplished. As the stars brightened above the ancient world, Serafina turned toward Ethan. The war was over. The galaxy was safe. Yet one question still remained between them. The same question that started everything. The Empress smiled. A real smile this time. Warm. Hopeful. And perhaps a little nervous. Then she asked softly, "So?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. Serafina laughed. The first genuine laugh he'd ever heard from her. Now that the galaxy isn't ending. She took his hand. "What about that marriage proposal?"